In 2022, a monster flood left a trail of destruction in Bayelsa State, Niger Delta, Nigeria. Over 1 million people were displaced. The catastrophe destroyed homes, farmlands, fishing ponds, schools, markets, and hospitals, killing more than 100 persons. Official government data stated that around 700,000 people were either displaced or affected. In addition, same sources also reported that around 200,000 houses were damaged, with over 82,000 fully destroyed. A similar flood had affected the same state in the 2012 Nigerian floods, which killed 363 people and displaced over 2.1 million people as of November that year. A fresh government forecast is already predicting another flood again and expected to affect same state in 2023. And locals are already preparing for the worst ahead. What many of them do not know is that this is climate change in action.
My name is Thompson Sunday. And I built this canoe because of the flood. We prepared for the flood because we heard that the flood had come. That's why we prepared it. Was God enough suffering? Yeah. So that made us to prepare this for we not to suffer as last year, because there is nobody help us.
I decided to go into farming because I'm passionate about farming, and I planted this cassava last year during December, which I was intending to harvest by November. But as a result of the flood, we have been told, and from the news, that the flood is about coming. So any moment from now, it will start. So I had no choice than to harvest my cassava to avoid wasting all the money I spent last year in cultivating this cassava. Because last year when the flood came, it was really, really too bad. We were flooded. Everywhere in this area was flooded. Our crops were also flooded. There was no harvest. So everybody decided to make sure that, if you look at everybody, we are trying to make sure that between now to the end of the month, our cassavas have been harvested to avoid all the time and the energy invested is wasted. So we also appeal to the government to do something about the flood.
This place where we did the first time, water be not there, but because of all this village, with the road where they block with all the culvert. When the rain fall, all our houses with our environment, water they enter them. As I dey walk here, if rain fall like today, water go enter for all our house. We don't know what to do. All of our things they spoil. Our children, we don't know where to keep them. They cause malaria with typhus for us. So we so long time where we dey suffer in this. So we need government to help us to do better drainage. All the rain culvert don't block. No way.
Africa contributes just less than 4% to the global climate change issue, and yet appears to be quite much affected by its effect. What's the cause of this?
The cause is complex, it's also simple and straightforward. Now, Africa has been a zone of exploitation for centuries. And in terms of climate change, the impact of climate change, climate change itself is not something that just happened yesterday. It's years of dependence on fossil fuel, burning of petrol, diesel, gas, coal. This has taken up the space in the atmosphere that we can safely have greenhouse gases. And that's the problem. Now, Africa is impacted, one, because of our location on the planet. We're the center of the world, so to speak. And the vast part of our land is in an area with high temperatures. And so when you hear about the target of temperature increase in the Paris Agreement as 1.5 as the best the world can aim at, what they are actually aiming at is something that is much higher for Africa, because that is just the average. And Africa is warmer, about 50% than the global average. And so our people ought not to accept such a very high level of temperature, global temperature average, as if it's something good. It's not good at all for us. And so we are getting more impact from exploitation of our resources. And this exploitation is done without any sense of responsibility. So when you talk about the impact, you talk about also about the capacity to respond to it and to mitigate and to adapt. So when you exploit without building up, the capacity to adapt is eliminated, is reduced. That's why we're having these disasters around us.
Alagoa Morris is one of the most vocal voices on environmental action and climate change in the Niger Delta. With his mobile phone, Alagoa is using social media to change the narrative, attracting the much-needed government attention to take actions that will lessen the effects of the floods which comes again this time, and then climate change.
I came to this environment in September, just about this time in 2018. And between that time and last year, we didn't experience the type of monster flood that we experienced last year. Last year, this whole road was flooded. We were wading through water, getting to our knee and getting to the thigh, depending on your height. So this area, these houses, this neighborhood was really flooded. And according to residents here, this happened to be the first time in 2022 that this environment was so submerged by that monster flood. The 2012 flood, which was the highest before last year's own, they never experienced that type of flood here. In fact, this major street was also flooded, Sanfino, here in Pansha. So right from that 2022, as we are wading through the water here, I took short video shots and posted on social media on my very Facebook page. After that, even while we are working trying to clear the drains this year, I also shot some video clip and shared how we are preparing for the flood and how the road is. And even in 2022, while I did that, I appealed that the government's attention should be drawn here to ensure that this road is upgraded. Besides that, along the Sanfino, as you move towards Isaac Boro Road, we had a very bad spot that is always flooded. Seriously, maybe due to defects in engineering work, in not getting the gradient where water will flow, or nowhere for the water to go to. So I have continued to post almost every day for about over a year on the need to work on the Sanfino Road. In fact, the last time I passed there in a tricycle, water even got into the tricycle and soaked me. I even posted that. So it has been consistent until we are surprised. Contractors were mobilized to that part of Sanfino Road. They are working on it now, seriously. And this lane of Sanfino is now being attended to by the state government. And I think it is a welcome development. It shows that our activities, our advocacy in and out of social media getting to the authorities, and action are being taken. It's not only here. I think some other persons too who did that in some other areas in Yanagwa, they are also working in those areas. Social media impact.
Just that what we are witnessing these days, and now I want to say that, you know, the days of our fathers, they don't, the way water is coming now, they predict, and the way they look at it within June, July, August, they look at it that maybe rain will come here. They know certain crops they will plant in a certain places. But now, the thing comes in the way we never expected, because the weather has changed completely, the climate. I want to talk about the weather condition, understand? The thing has come to the fact, we just wake up and see water everywhere. Water everywhere. Look at around here.
So what's the solution? Because people like you have been at the forefront of driving solutions for these issues, pushing conversations and dialogue on this. Where does Africa go from here?
This is really the time. We don't have time to play around, to play politics with climate change. It's time for political leaders, those in policy-making levels, to speak truth to power. So this is an existential threat to Africa and Africans. It is time to have the finance needed to build resilience and also to adapt. It's time for finance that would move into renewable energy and keep the oil in the soil. But 65 years of oil exploitation has brought no progress to Nigeria, and no progress at all to, and more African countries are going that direction. Now the issue of, I mentioned finance, but I need to clarify, because sometimes when Africans go for climate negotiations with a begging bowl for money, like climate finance, they come back empty-handed, and then they can't put real strong arguments on the table. Now, when we look at how we've been exploited through slavery, through colonialism, and we are suffering the negative impact more than any part of the world, except maybe the small island states in the Pacific, there's a climate debt that is being owed. Somebody caused the problem, they have to pay for it. So you don't ask for loans, you don't ask for grants, you're asking for a debt that is being owed. And for many years, starting from COP15 in Copenhagen in 2009, the debate was that the world should just do what you can do. That's when voluntary emission reduction. Before, the polluting countries were required to cut emissions at a certain level, but now, including at the Paris Agreement, in the Paris Agreement, countries do what they can do. They call it nationally determined contributions, which cannot solve the problem, which is not solving the problem. So, from Copenhagen, there was an agreement that for the next 10 years, the world will contribute $10 billion to vulnerable nations to tackle global warming. Then from 2020, that will be, they call it ramped up. Ramped sounds so beautiful. Ramped up to 100 billion. They never made the target. They never made the 10 billion. They never made the 100 billion. And here we are. The rich polluting countries spend more than $2 trillion on warfare and military armament every year. So it's not for lack of money. Exactly. See how much they rush to. And when COVID came, all the money they invested in vaccines and kept the vaccine to themselves. So there's a lot of selfishness in the world. Xenophobia is real. And they now turn it to nationalism. And so unless we wake up and demand our right as people who have been exploited and wronged, then of course the problem will continue.